start that. Oh, we are recording. Awesome. Okay. So just a little bit about Curriculum Square, because I don't know if you guys know this, but I coach Commonwealth schools across the country. And one of the problems I was running into was that these groups were creating really great content, like seeing these awesome moms were creating great content within their schools. And then it seems like I would hear about them from the chairman of the school, and they were so excited, and this thing's working so well, and this is what we're doing, and da da da. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I'd be talking to another chairman who would say, gosh, we really are having this problem and we need this thing. And I would be like, wow, I just had somebody tell me about that a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember who it was or where it was from. So, silly or not, Curriculum Square actually is birthed out of that to kind of create a place for people to be able to share with one another. And we made a commitment. My commitment was absolutely to quality and to helping these moms make money off of their genius. And so we knew we were going to create a platform. And then as we were talking about quality and stuff, I knew that Genevieve was the person to bring on board to help these moms really create something that was extremely usable by anybody who picked it up and touched it, but would also add to the value for that mom that was selling it. Because sometimes we're the one that's got the creative, great ideas, but we maybe aren't ready to package it all by ourselves, because that may not be our genius. So everything that goes onto Curriculum Square goes through Genevieve as an editing process, no matter what. Like, I've had people go, but my stuff's been for sale for forever. Nope, it's still going through our editors. So, and really, this is, so far, we have not had anybody be anything but grateful for that process, and super excited as she has recommended tweaks, and we even have Benita Sutton as our artist on board, and she's helped really add value to those things as well through her artistic talents. So this next couple of webinars and the next two are going to be all about how to put your content together in a sellable form. So, you're bringing the genius of your ideas, and Genevieve is helping you format it and putting it into something, or get it ready to sell, really. And so we're really excited to have you guys on board, take a look at what this might look like for you, and get anything out of this that you can, that can help you put your stuff out there for sale. So I am going to turn the time over to Genevieve, and she's going to go over a little bit about what today is going to be about. And I know we don't really know where everybody's coming from, so we'll get an idea of that as she talks to you. And that's also going to help us decide what exactly we're going to talk about.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Brenda. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. All right, so that was a fine introduction for those of you who came in late. Brenda had an accident last week, and she, I guess, met a garage door with her face. So she's not going to turn her camera on because she's still recovering, so we'll send her good vibes for that. And but she's going to be here and helping out. In fact, Brenda, would you mind the participants box in case Anne shows up? That's the one that we're missing here. All right. So this is going to be a little bit freeform today because I don't know you guys, and I don't know what your projects are or what your ideas are. So I want to get to know you a little bit better, kind of know why you were here and what you were writing and what I can do for you specifically, because I have a presentation that's kind of philosophical about the development of curriculum, but I want to make it so that it really applies to you. And I hope you guys all have a writing utensil and notebooks and dedicated to this, because I'm going to ask that you be diligent about note taking today, because I'm going to send you the slides that I'm using, so for your own, for review and stuff, but you're going to need to take notes as they apply to you and your own projects. Okay, so let's start with Heidi. Heidi, can you turn your microphone on and tell us why you're here and what you were writing? And I'm going to ask you some other questions as we go, but let's go with that.
Okay. Why I'm here, I am currently a teacher for a charter school for homeschoolers in California. And when I started this, I was able to do this the way I know homeschooling works best. And it's slowly sucking the life out of homeschooling. So I need to have a different option. And so
Sorry, say that again. What you said.
I want to get back to traditional homeschooling and create curriculum for homeschoolers that is project-based, that is especially history, but that also meets the needs of the school system now that I have that information. But I don't want to have this yuck that they're trying to push on these kids. There's some horrible stuff out there, and I just don't like it. So I want to have other options.
I totally understand what you're saying. I think if I understand correctly, what you're saying, it's not only the content, but the way that they talk about how they teach and the requirements, and it's very it's hard to feel like it's personal.
Yes, so I'm into individualized education. I've been homeschooling it's my 20th year of homeschooling. I know the power of that, and I want to create curriculum, like I said, especially for social studies in high school, at the high school level, that incorporates, other things, like English, and that, as I said, is project based, so that meets the needs of all of these different things, but it's also very individualized.
Okay, and that's really the beauty of creating curriculum, is that it doesn't have to be without merit and without being based on solid principles. You can still study the educational philosophers, and you can cut through all of the extraneous verbiage that public school adds to it and create something really awesome. Okay, so you are looking to specifically create high school level history or social studies? Like, do you understand the difference, or have you thought about the difference?
Yeah, well, at the high school level, social studies includes, history, but also government and economics, civics, things like that. So social studies is more all-encompassing. Mm-hmm. I've already written it. I didn't ever complete it, but I've already written an economics curriculum, and so my goal is to have all of that.
Where do you see yourself starting?
Actually, my son needs world history, so I'm starting with that.
World history, awesome. Okay, and when you say history, I mean high school, you're thinking like ages 14 and up?
Yes, just because I do understand that there are some people that need to have specific standards met, but I just want to do it in a more creative way than our schools are currently doing it.
And where do you feel like you are in the process?
I'm just starting.
Okay, so you have an idea.
Yeah, and I just haven't had time to play around with it, but I figured I'd come to this and get more of an idea and see what you had to say, so I could.
And so just so you guys all know, like, as we move for the next couple weeks, I'm going to give you homework and ask that you start working at getting these ideas down if you haven't, and moving forward with them. Okay, so thank you. Carrie, let's go to you next. Why are you here?
Okay, well, I guess I'm here. Along with 4 other moms, we created a curriculum several years ago that our kids used that we loved. and we only used it for a year in the format that we still got my mask. Sorry, I'm at the library. That we only used it for 1 year because things we were all in different places, so it was an online curriculum. And after that, we kind of did our own little local groups, and then it just, as kids got older and needs changed, we did other things. But this year, I just started feeling like that there were other people that needed this kind of system in their education. So we have 1 year of curriculum already and have the website for it and everything. And I guess I'm just here because I'm just curious to see what Curriculum Square is and maybe how we can share that. And then I actually really hope to hire curriculum writers for my program as it grows for the coming years. And that's one of my passions with this, is writing the curriculum, is having that. Now the curriculum is for
Oh, wait, did you say you want to hire curriculum writers?
eventually, yes.
Okay. Eventuality. All right, go ahead.
And right now the curriculum is really geared toward probably 11 through 13,
I'm
14.
doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Oh, I think we need to, yeah. So there is also extensions. I did write a scholar program the year following, and I really enjoyed doing that. I really liked finding the things that the older scholar kids could do. However, and then we also have connections for the younger kids so that families can all be involved in the same curriculum. But it's really meant for those age group of kids to be able to be self-sufficient in their education and have it be exciting, interesting, very media-based, because we're teaching them how to use media to grow their education. And then they also get choice in what they learn within a given structure. So
So what is the subject? What is the subject of your curriculum?
it's all subjects. It's different. It's a different way of thinking about education. So I can't really say. So we cover all subjects. We don't do a specific like math curriculum and language arts curriculum. It's more of a I get those. I mean, those can be definitely added onto any, like this program can be added to any curriculum the kids are using at home for learning math, for learning language arts. But this is meant for kids who already know how to read and write, and they can seek. We teach them, like, so we have basic skills that we teach them, like how to find the viable, reliable resources, how to check their resources, how to, relate what they're doing with what their lives are right now, and how to show what they know. So they have several options within that, and they cover, we cover math connections, but history, science. Brenda, yes.
Yeah, can I ask a question? So
Sure.
This is fascinating to me. I'm excited about it.
Okay.
I want to understand, like, it sounds like you have a goal in mind or a theme, or there's something that ties this all together that, like, kind of almost like your own educational philosophy.
Yes.
Okay, will you share that with us? Because I'm really interested. It's like,
Well, actually, I'm going to stop you because it sounds to me like that is the area that you need the most, that you need some work on, is to have the ability to describe it like quickly and like to sell it.
Yeah. Well, and I guess really that's it. Yeah, just maybe honing in on exactly deciding who this is, like, so people can read a description of it quickly and say, oh, that's what I'm looking for. And I have several one-liners like where kids learn what they love and love what they learn. It's a place where parents can feel like they can grow a connection with their children, where their children can feel safe with their kids.
Right. And still, and still, I would say I still don't know what you do, right? Do you
I
understand?
know.
And so that's going to be actually the homework for all of you this week is that and it will be individualized, is that you're going to work on being able to describe your project or your curriculum.
Right.
So I'm gonna that's a great question, Brenda, and it's definitely the core of things.
Yeah,
But
Brenda, I can talk to you about it later.
I want to go through this with you, and then I want to give you that as homework, which we'll start with next week, and so that you can.
Okay, and Genevieve, I will let you know that Anne Bingham, that's also on this call, she's working with me, so you don't need to talk to her separately about her stuff. So.
Okay, awesome. Let's go to Kim. Thank you, Carrie.
Okay. I had actually forgotten that I wrote a curriculum until a couple weeks ago. And then it was just, I was sitting in the middle of class and I went, wait a minute, I wrote a curriculum on this. And then your email came through my thread, which was kind of interesting to go, So it's storytelling curriculum. It could be any ages. Right now I'm teaching a transition class, meaning like 9, 10, 11-year-olds. I've taught it to younger kids. I think older students could also benefit from it. It's storytelling, so it's based on understanding story pattern. So you do like a literary analysis of each story. In addition to that, you get like, oh my gosh, I could go on and on about the power of story with the brain. So you analyze a story and learn that story pattern really well. They present stories every week, so they're getting a lot of presentation skills, public speaking skills, all of that sort of thing. And then they are also encouraged, it's project-based, so in addition to telling the story, they create a project based on some aspect of the story. For example, if you're telling The Little Red Hen, my daughter, this was her project when she was like 6. She told The Little Red Hen, and her project for the story was she researched bread, she ground the wheat, she made bread, she brought it, she presented it to the class, they ate the bread, she told them the history of bread. So in addition to the storytelling, they're doing that too.
Awesome. So this would be like okay.
I've taught it to elementary students and lower elementary grades, and currently I say transition because for those of you that are familiar with TJ Ed, it's, or Lemmy, it's like there's the young kids and then there's the scholar kids, and this is the in-between kids.
Right. Kind of a newer thing that we're looking at is teaching those transition kids. So, what ages do you want to be addressing? Like, what do you think? Where do you think is the sweet spot with your curriculum?
The sweet spot. I don't know, Carrie, what's the sweet spot for this?
I think Kim's sweet spot is people who really, really want to learn how to tell stories. I mean, it could really, her range of age could be from probably 8 to 18.
Yeah, that's true. It could be because they can do, just depends on the type of story you want to tell. And again, the literary review can be really simple or could be really complex, which leads into writing.
Okay.
And
performance too.
Yeah.
So kids who want to.
It's all about that too, that confidence.
So when we're looking at, a couple of things you could be doing with a curriculum. One is you're writing something because, like Heidi said, she wants something for her son, quality for her son. or you could be writing something to fill a need in the group that you're in, or you could be writing something because you want to present it. You want to present it to the world. You want to sell it, and so either way. But I think for the last one specifically, that ability to say what it is that you wrote, and to explain it to someone and to sell it is super important. So Kim, you're going to have basically the homework this week, which is how do you introduce your project in the most effective and exciting way. So I want you to be thinking about that as we're going through it. So is it Anne or Annie? I'm not sure. Let's see.
It's Anne. I don't know if she's Anne or she's listening, but I think she's driving to meet me here, so I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
So she can get on.
That's fine. So I'm going to go ahead with my slides for today. So what I decided to do to start with, at least, is kind of introduce you guys to the things that Heidi said she doesn't like, which is kind of the academic side of curriculum writing. But I think what's really important. So I have a degree in education. I graduated from BYU forever ago with a degree in secondary education and an emphasis in history, and I have endorsements in social studies and English and history, and I have a minor in music. And so I started teaching and my first job was actually in a private school, and I was the history teacher, and I taught French because it was a funny little private school. And then I quickly, I moved on from there, and my specialty at the time was to work with gifted students. So the first school, the private school I worked at was a school for gifted students. And then I moved on to have another position as the gifted ed director in a school. And my takeaway from all of that was that I really enjoyed working with gifted students because they, in this setting specifically, because they wanted to be there. They were coming to learn. And they were coming oftentimes from having really bad experiences in public school and not being treated well because they liked to learn. And so I think this is great. I want to work with kids that want to learn. And then the adults got in the way, and the administration got in the way, and it was not fun. And so I decided I did not want to do that anymore. So I quit teaching public education, and I opened up a piano studio. So you can see I have my COVID keyboard right here because I had to switch everything to online. But I teach. That was the first thing I did. But I also had homeschool friends who wanted me to help them with their homeschooling, and so I was, taught classes in people's homes, and did that for a long time. I finally discovered leadership education, and it spoke to me. And throughout my experiences with TJ Ed, I learned that I figured out homeschool kids had the exact same characteristics that I saw in the quote-unquote gifted students, that their parents were paying a lot of money to go to this special school. And so I said to myself, I think that maybe giftedness is not a thing you're born with. I think it might be a thing that's developed inside of you by really good educational experiences. And so I continued to work with homeschool families, and eventually I started a cooperative, a Commonwealth here. In our Commonwealth I live in Tacoma, Washington, by the way, and our Commonwealth has split 3 times, and I'm long since not in leadership anymore, but I do teach, and Brenda asked me to join her with Curriculum Square, and all throughout this time, curriculum has been my passion. I love to help people develop their ideas, and it's really easy I find it to be easy to come up with the ideas and to have like a bit of an outline of what you're doing, and to be able to figure out, I have this many weeks, I want to teach art, so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and fill it in. But a lot of people are not doing the work of actually writing down what they teach and keeping track of all these ideas that they come up with, So a lot of things are being lost. And then when it comes to the scholar classes, if any of us are involved in something like Lemmy, for example, we've become really dependent on what they create and what they produced. And so a lot of our own abilities to have ideas in the homeschooling, and especially in the TJ at homeschooling community, which is where I do a lot of work, are going to the wayside. And so what my passion is to empower everyone with their ideas to be able to create projects and have a way to disseminate them. So you can teach them in your own schools, but maybe there's more, there's a world out there and there's a desire to have more, and I want us to be able to share with each other. And I think that if we have the quality there, it makes it easier. So that's a little bit about me. So I'm going to go ahead and show you my slides here. And feel free to stop me at any time and ask questions. Let's see. Somebody's got there. Carrie, I'm going to mute you. There we go. Okay. And I have the chat box open, and you are also free to stop me at any time. Please don't hesitate. So when it comes to curriculum development, the writer of projects needs to think of themselves as a coach. So when you're writing it, you really need to think beyond yourself, beyond your own personal experience, and really have in mind, in your head, that person that's going to be taking your project and teaching it themselves. So you want to kind of work at getting inside of their heads and looking at it from different eyes. How are they going to see this? How are they going to take these instructions that I'm giving them? Are they going to be able to own them, or are they going to be caught up in the fact that this was somebody else's and they're just trying to follow those instructions? So it's really important that as you write your curriculum, that you think really hard about that person who's going to be using it. So consider yourself a coach for them. And it's also, you're also considering, of course, the students that are being taught as well. And so you're like the grandma coach of those kids as well.
Genevieve,
Mm-hmm.
do you mind if I share a little tip on Zoom?
Sure. What do you got?
Okay. So if you hit, you could open this document where it says present, and it'll fill your whole screen, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I can't find my Zoom. So then you hit Alt Tab, and it will take you back and forth. So you
actually have two screens. I just don't like to do presentation because I can't do my notes. But let's see, I will.
Well, that's okay. You could do it that way. I just thought if you didn't know.
I appreciate that. No,
I apologize if that was overstepping.
It's not at all. I appreciate that. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, we can totally see it fine. And we could see it fine before. I just thought, well, I wonder if you know. And since you're a presenter, you're a teacher.
I'm long ago figured out I can't do it if I don't have two screens.
That's totally great.
It makes a big difference for me. So tip for you guys, right?
Okay, so take that for what it's worth. Let it go. But this is awesome.
Say it again. You click on what?
You can hit Alt Tab, and it will take you back and forth between screens.
Awesome. Perfect. So thank you for that. I'm gonna just quick fast. So today we'll probably only get through the overview of what is curriculum and a little bit of getting started. And then the next 3 weeks we'll talk about the plan, which includes instructional strategies, learning techniques, outlining lesson plans, and then the nuts and bolts of formatting, resources, and copyright. And then the last, I'll talk to you about the marketing itself, storefront setup, and student binders and things like that. So I want to answer the question of what is curriculum. So curriculum is a course of study. In Latin, it means a racing chariot, and the verb is carrere or career, I don't know, to run. So that's interesting. So it says curriculum has forward momentum to it. So also, curriculum is the same material which can then be taught differently because it applies to the individual. So I just want to ask you guys, and you can write these down as well. for yourselves, but take a second and think about what are some of your favorite ways to teach. I know a lot of you mentioned project based, so I'm gonna write that down for myself. But what are some of your favorite ways to teach? So you can say in a group, individually.
Do you want us to share those out loud or just write them down in our notes?
You can write them down and share them with me.
Simulations.
Okay, using simulations. That's great because it's a struggle. That's a struggle for a lot of people. So that's a really really hot area in curriculum right now. If you can effectively write and share simulations with people, they want them.
Games.
Okay, using games. How much do you do that, Kim?
With games?
Yeah.
Kim's luscious games.
At least once a class.
Yeah.
Try to
Right.
look for a game. Always have a game.
And they call it gamification. There's like a whole game schooling, they call it. There's a homeschool that's just called game schooling.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you can take, not only add games to it, but if you can take your subject matter and game it up, that's like a huge thing right now. So, all right, anyone else?
Mine, I think, is there's two. One is I love teaching through online. I love teaching kids how to learn online and finding what they're looking for and resources and things that are inspiring to them. And I also love teaching projects based off of their interest and learning style.
Thank you. Okay, so we've talked, these are all different categories of things. We got some activities here, we have some learning, some teaching strategies, we have some the way that the mode of sharing information online. So what have you liked about curriculum that you've used in the past? When you think about, like, if you maybe stuff that you've purchased to teach a project, or to teach for a semester, what is something that you've liked about it?
Easy prep.
Okay.
And I like bullet point directions. I don't like to read a lot. Like I don't want to sort through a lot of words. There could be a long form and a short form.
Right. And that's a huge part of the editing process, is like to go over and over and then go over again and then go over again to how can we make this so clear that it isn't overwhelming to people. So thanks for pointing that out.
You know what, Genevieve? I really like patterns.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when I grab a hold of a curriculum, it doesn't have a pattern to the flow, and I'll describe it a little bit more. Then I create a pattern to the flow. So I want to find something that is going to work for my students, whether it's 1 hour class or 3 hour class. I spend the first couple of weeks like figuring out what works for them, what they need in the timing, as it relates to different types of activities. Like, are we going to do something physical now? Are we going to do something in our heads now? Are we going to, and then I like that pattern to repeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It makes it simple for me.
It's very important that you guys, it's really like the best thing, like a gift that you could give to the user of your curriculum, that you tell them that this is what a class looks like, and maybe that pattern, as Brenda talked about, is repeated every week. So like the curriculum that I'm using right now says that every week there's a devotional, return and report, presentations, then there's the lecture, then there's the activity, and that happens every single week. And so it's very nice, and that's part of why when you're creating curriculum, that you want to make sure that you've actually taught it for a while, that you've road tested it a bit, so that you can share those things with them. All right, Carrie, were you going to say something?
I was, but I've kind of forgotten the question.
Oh, we were just talking about things that you liked about curriculum that you've used.
Oh, that I've used. That's right. I like visuals. Anything visual that can give me a visual instruction. And maybe that's why I like media so much, is because you can create videos, or you can find videos or instructional or educational videos that help kind of go, oh yeah, I get it.
Hmm. And this is getting a little bit ahead of us ourselves, but you are right that teaching online makes. I do a lot of online teaching myself, so I understand exactly what you're talking about, and makes it very nice. And then for those of you that are creating classroom-based, not online curriculum, an element that not everybody is necessarily willing to do is the element of putting in visuals, and creating original content. So there's a big, huge issue with copyright, which we'll talk about down the road. That you cannot just find something online and slap it into a curriculum that you're going to sell and call it good. And so the option is either I'm just going to have a lot of explanation and some really simple worksheets to sell, or I'm going to invest in creating something original content that has a visual to it. I might ask my graphic design friend. I might even invest a little bit of money into the process, and that takes it to a whole different level, right? So you do need to think about your motivation and what it is you want to do. But I would say to you that that it would make you very stand out, like hugely stand out, to have more visuals in your curriculum, because that's not an area that we're broaching very well right now. We'll get there with the projects that we have on Curriculum Square, but not a lot of them are doing that. So, what are some problems with curriculum that you've used?
We don't have everything there. It's I know as my experience with Lemmy, I've heard, and also in leadership in my community, I've had a lot of people come to me and say that there isn't enough direction. And so I understand why in Lemmy, but I feel like any curriculum that I want to create needs to have that a little bit, a lot of direction and make it easy. And
there's a sweet spot between a one sentence instruction for a lecture, which I'm thinking if you might have seen before,
yep.
in any curriculum, where there's only there's not, there's just a little bit and it requires a lot of the mentor, or you're just giving them everything where it's almost rote, and so that takes the need for thinking out for a teacher that can think for themselves out of the picture, right? So and then there's also the explanation, where you might be working on like the daily class, what happens in the class that week in the class, and then there's the mentor resources. So keep track as you're working on your projects. Keep track of those resources that you focused on, that you think are great, that you can give the teachers as prep for themselves. And I think that is not being utilized as much. So I think that can be really helpful.
And Genevieve, I want to add something. One of the things that drives me crazy about curriculum sometimes is when, and I think this is along the lines of what Heidi's saying sort of, but I see this a lot in science curriculum, where they don't clearly outline what you're going to need for that particular lesson. So I literally kind of I want the bullet points in the chapter for that lesson itself, like, list of things you're going to need and have it listed out. And then I also, though, would like to see it at the beginning or at the end as an appendix where it's just a bulleted list, especially I'm thinking about a science curriculum that says lesson 1, here you go, lesson 2, and it's just a couple pages of, hey, if you get the things together for these next 5 lessons, and it's all in one list on 1 or 2 pages here, then I feel so prepared. Um, so I love checklists like that help me be prepared in advance without a lot of powering through the entire lesson to try to figure out all the little details I'm going to need.
It's one of the things I focus the most on when I edit curriculum is that there cannot be any surprises, because I tell them you have to imagine that if they're not front loaded and you didn't tell them up front, and then they're reading through this, and then they get halfway through and it says, now you need this, and you could see this person who's reading it, that their heads are going to explode as they're like, what? I didn't understand it from the beginning. Now they're telling me, oh my gosh. Like, it doesn't matter. You can just see it in your mind's eye that you're giving someone a heart attack as they're going through and finding out there's more and more that they didn't know. And then they're like, why did I even buy this? Oh my gosh. So you have to figure out how to front load what is the required of the teacher in your curriculum at the beginning. So this is all specific to your projects. So hopefully this is either you're saying I did this is great, or you're saying these are some things I'm going to focus on. But I want to just talk to you about the models of curriculum. And I got about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to kind of zoom through these parts, and then we will I'll give you homework, and then we'll focus specifically more on your projects next week. So in the writing of curriculum, there's different models to focus on, and the two that I want to start with are called the product model and the process model. And as we talk about them, I want you to think about where you fall. So a product model is the model of curriculum that's based on the outcome. So the outcome is the product, and the product is knowledge. So it's kind of a one-size-fits-all curriculum, and outcomes are the acquisition of knowledge is measured by assessment. So the focus is on how the knowledge is shared, how the product is shared, and it's not necessarily student focused. So by that I mean it's not individualized. So I'm going to put that here. Okay. So this is often curriculum that is based towards younger children. And so in the notes here, which your homework is going to be to read these websites, there's a website here that is a presentation on the product model. So I'd ask that you go through that this week. It's not necessarily bad or good. This one is just focused on the knowledge that you're going to share and how you're going to get it across. So we talked a lot about project-based teaching, which is one of my favorite forms of assessing. It's an assessment. The project-based project-based curriculum ends in a project or a presentation of some sort, and that is how the outcome is measured by that assessment. So it can be really great. It's a really great way to teach younger kids. Any thoughts or questions on the product model? Okay, so then the process model is based on the content, and it's more free form, and the focus is on the content of the lesson, and which is still the knowledge, but we're breaking it down to the acquisition of the knowledge. It talks about in the process model, you focus on the interaction between the teachers and the students and the curriculum, and the learners have a voice, so it's more self-directed. And a person who is writing a process model curriculum would focus on the strategies that they use to teach it. It gives an action plan for experiences, and the writer of the curriculum would decide on important information to be learned or taught. So that it's kind of a tricky thing here because the teacher needs to have options, so therefore the writer of the curriculum needs to provide them with options. So I'm going to show you real quickly something that might help you understand this a bit better. So this is a curriculum that I'm working with right now. It's called Our Place in History. And in the lectures, the outline of the lectures, let me go down here. I really like what she does here because it's actually quite a bit, but you can see week 1,
We're only seeing the slides still. Is that what you're
no, sorry, let me change that. I appreciate that. All right, can you guys see semester 1 lectures?
Yep.
All right, so she says week 1 is communism versus capitalism, Korean War, and the Cold War begins. And then she gives me all of these things. So refresh the end of World War II, and the Russians' dishonesty with the treaties, USSR's global goals, and how that translated into the Cold War. How did the Korean War start? Why did the United States get involved? What other countries were involved, and what effect did they have? How did the war end? What was the public opinion of the war in America? So that's a lot for me to, as a teacher, to be able to dive in. And then I have to figure out myself, which is okay. I have to figure out myself how to navigate this. I've been teaching this class. This is will be the 3rd and 4th week this month, and I'm just I'm figuring things out. I'm not upset with the amount that she included in here. I'm just kind of trying to find my way into how much I can share, because there's a lot here, which is fine. But so that the curriculum writer shared important information to be learned or taught, right? And then the teacher figures out how to do that. So process model would be something that you will really focus on with older students. Okay. So, and aside from that, there's also in the planning process, there are also 3 different types of design that you can look at. One is problem-centered, one is subject-centered, and one is learner-centered. Okay. So these kind of would fall under process and product. So subject-centered is where you're just doing mathematics, literature, or biology. Again, that would be product model. So Heidi, that's kind of what you're looking at. And but it doesn't mean you're going to be super dry and boring, right? So we're going to focus, if we're looking at a subject-centered curriculum, then we're going to look at those instructional strategies and the how it's taught, and focus on the activities that go with it.
So Genevieve, do you need to switch us back to the other screen because we're still sitting here?
Sorry. What's when I think I'm doing it right? All right, are we there? Thank you. Thank you. And then learner-centered revolves around student needs, interests, and goals. And this would be more of an elective-based class where you see a need, fill a need. When we talk about that transition age, and Carrie, like your content, your project sounds to me like it is very learner-centered. So you're looking at how can we address the needs of those transition students as they move into, as we look at the needs of students that are 10, 11, 12, 13, what do they need in order to be able to handle the rigors of a harder, more of their higher educational life, I guess. And then the last one is problem-centered. It exposes students to real-life issues, transferable real-world skills, and increases the relevance of curriculum. So a real popular project to teach older students is life skills, or teach them adulting. So that would be problem-centered, because we want them to know how to manage their bills and get a job, and all those things. All right. So the questions that you ask yourselves is, am I designing a product or am I designing a process? And is it subject based, problem based, or learner based? So I'm going to let you ponder on that for about 30 seconds or so and answer these questions for yourself. Okay. I think also, and I keep talking a lot, but I want you to also think about where does your interest lie? Because you can think about your specific project that you're working on or you want to be working on, but then you can also think about yourself as a writer of curriculum, like what speaks to you the most. Okay, so I'll let you think about that for a few seconds, for a few minutes, seconds more.
So Genevieve, while they're working on that, something just really struck me that I just wanted to share if it's okay. That it's very interesting as a curriculum writer, if your goal is, it depends on your goal, because I don't know that everybody's goal here is to actually sell it. Some of you sound like, hey, I've got this great goal of writing this curriculum for my use. Which is awesome too. But when you are trying to sell that curriculum, you actually have two, maybe even three audiences. It's kind of difficult. So as you're going through these questions, and when we get to the marketing stuff later in a couple of weeks, we'll talk more about that. But it is an interesting irony that you have to sell it to the group or the school that's going to be using it in your description. You have to sell it to the teacher who might be the one who first sees it and introduces it to the school and says, I want to teach this. Can I teach this? And you have to basically, your end user is the student. You're thinking about them the entire time that you're doing this and writing this curriculum. So it is a lot to think about as you're producing this.
You're also setting yourself up as an author, and an author that authors have voices. Like, so I would, I really appreciate what Brenda's saying, because you have to know your audience, but it's also okay for you to have your individual voice. Who are you? So, Carrie, what did you think about when it came to the design questions?
Well, I just immediately, I know mine is process and learner based. Like, I don't know. I don't know specifically more how to answer that.
No, that's the perfect answer. So it's great that you know who you are and what you want to be doing, right? And so that narrows so much down for you, and that's great. What about you, Heidi?
It's yes, I want them to learn about history or whatever, but I really see it as more of a process. I want them to, one of the things I have a problem with the history curriculum today is that it's just dealing with, that product, and what I want them to be able to see is how history affects them, and history affects the problems that we're dealing with today. And so I see it more as learner and problem based rather than just subject based. But it's a little bit of everything, because you have to have the subject too. So
I think it's okay for you to be process based and subject based. I think the problem sometimes comes in when we're product based and subject based, and like when it's trying, or when we're trying to teach older learners and we're just trying to cram that subject matter into them, then we lose so much that way.
yeah.
Okay. Kim left. So, Brenda, what about you? When you think of these design questions you've written stuff, where do you think you fall?
Well, I think when it's been interesting, because I think there have been times when I've done out of process problem based, which has been interesting, as well as learner based. And I've even done product based, but not as much.
When
So,
you're, oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, I've done some younger kids stuff that's been product based. That's been a lot of fun. Where the idea really was to get certain books and use those certain books as themes, and it really wasn't. I don't know. I'm still kind of trying to figure it out when I do my little junior classes that I just absolutely love. Um, they feel like they're more product based. Sure. But then when I've done older student stuff, it's either been problem or learner based with a process.
Got it. Okay, so one of the things hopefully that this will do for you is give you some of the verbiage that you need to talk more efficiently and effectively about your projects. So the organizational considerations when writing curriculum are the ways that it's structured. So structuring the lesson plans. Sorry, I'm gonna stop right there. Structuring the specific assignments, structuring the units to study, and thinking about the entire educational program. Like, are you following an educational program? Like, where does your project fit in the course of a student's learning life? And are you trying to market to a specific philosophy, or not? Just say, are you or are you not? In addition, are there institutional requirements? So if you're not necessarily focused so much on selling it, but you want to use it for the group that you're in, are there institutional requirements, guidelines, principles, and frameworks that need to be followed? And also, are you meeting the educational needs of students? And are you using materials that are current and comprehensible? So, let's see. I'm going to run out of time here. So, let me go over this real quick. 6 components of effective teaching are the knowledge of the content, the knowledge of the student, instructional goals, the knowledge of the resources, coherent instruction, and assessment. So we'll talk about each of those as we go through the next couple weeks. We did talk a little bit about knowledge of content and knowledge of the student today. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna just fast forward to the assignment this week. So this whole section, it's slides 1 through 16. I'd like you to review them and read the websites. So 2 of them have in the notes a website that you can go to. It shouldn't take you very long. And then I would like for you guys to outline your project. And so that can happen in a couple of ways. So you can outline the introduction of your project, and that would be the idea of the project, the age of the student that is addressed with your project, the subject, and a little bit about the model. So you want to speak to the model in a way that is not necessarily, it is accessible to the person who's going to be wanting to teach it. So I'm going to show you, let's do this correctly this time. I'm going to show you the introduction to the project that I've been teaching, which I alluded to earlier, and I'll read it to you here. So this is a history class, but I feel like she has a really interesting backstory as to why she wants to teach, why she wrote this project. So it says, too often we focus on the distant past, failing to recognize the significant impact of more recent events on our daily lives. In this class, we will be studying the period of time following the end of World War II through the 2010s. We will discover the meaning behind commonly used phrases such as, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid," and "I am not a crook." We will learn to pay more attention to what is happening now in the world around us. We will explore the people and events from this 7-decade span through reading, lectures, simulations, document studies, and other activities. We will learn about generational cycles and how they are affected by history, as well as how they in turn affect history. We will learn about and discuss the different generational archetypes described in the book The Fourth Turning by Strauss and Ho. How do we fit into these archetypes? What do we agree with? What do we disagree with? Does this help us understand different generations and the choices they made? There will be content in this class that will be of a more mature nature that parents and mentors need to be sensitive to in deciding whether this class is appropriate for their scholars. The recommended ages for this class, scholar class, is 14 to 18 years. Okay. So, what did you guys think about that as an introduction?
Well, I'll tell you my response to that. One, it's excellent content. The story was told well as to what they were, why they were covering, what they were covering. And it sounds intriguing. Sounds like an intriguing class. My other response to that is, I look at that, and maybe this is just me because I'm a visual. I look at that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so boring. Can I put, I could see exactly where to put bullet points, where to put pictures, just to make it look more like this is what we're going to be doing in this class instead of, oh, I got to read all that. So I'm just because I don't know if I want to say lazy nature of our kids and what they're growing up in, but everything is so quick that the quicker we can get them, pull their interest, the more likely they are to latch on to that. So
awesome. Great. And that's super awesome. That's super great feedback. It's also, I would just say absolutely go with that for for yourself. And we need that. We need that a lot in this space. So I appreciate that. Heidi, what about you? What was your response to that as an introduction? Let's see, your microphone is not on yet.
Clicked on the teacher trainer.
Sorry, I'm on, I have to go to another call.
Overlapping.
But I mean, it's really, I liked what Carrie said. It's definitely, it looked very dry. I think it needed more formatting. I have a lot of desktop publishing, just that type of thing, background, and I would want to pretty it up and make it easier to read and easier to get engaged with. But it has all kinds of great information.
Perfect.
So,
okay.
Anyway.
So then this week I would like you to focus on introducing your projects. And then if you feel like you have gotten further than that, and that's you need a little bit more challenge, then you can actually, you know what, that's all we're going to do. Just work on the being able to introduce your project and make sure that you can say it succinctly. What is it? And if you have it already, Carrie, and in your curriculum that you have right now, then pull it out. And if there's any work that you can do to make it more effective, then do that and show us.
Well, this is actually great because I have a curriculum, I have everything. It's just the introduction to work on. So this is perfect for me.
Yay! All right. So there's some other things. This sheet right here I got from Amy Edwards, who wrote the Lollipop book, and she talks about in here the different stages, and then the learning goals and the learning tasks that might be appropriate for each of those ages. And so we'll look at that next week. But I'm going to send you her slides. I'll show you real quick. And you can review them as well, just as a matter of learning from somebody else. All right, let me show you real quick. Okay, so this is a seminar she did called the Master Thinkers, and it's about designing instruction purposefully. And so these are really good for you to go over as well, but I'll get to that one slide that she has filled in here. So For example, she says a mastery stage, which is 12 to 18, the learning goals are time management, persuasive writing and speaking, and they can do things like simulations, Socratic seminars, tests, writing to learn, and analytical and critical reading. So this kind of gives you some parameters that you might look at for what you could and what you should and shouldn't include in a curriculum that you're writing, and the ages, specific ages that you're going to address. But we'll talk about that more next week. So hopefully this is a good start for you guys, and come next week with your introduction to your project. And Heidi, you're just starting, but this is kind of like your roadmap. Where are you going to go from here? So get it down on paper, and you can bring it, but if you would email it to me, that would be great as well. So you should have all gotten my email, but I'll put it in the chat box real quick. It says Genevieve at curriculumsquare.com. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming today. I'm glad to get to work with you, and I hope this will be helpful.
Genevieve, thank you so much.